Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar, The Overlooked Benefit of Recovery Audit by PRGX. The obvious benefit of any recovery audit is it yields significant cash to a company's bottom line, but there is valuable information that can sometimes be overlooked, which could yield a greater return on investment. This webinar delves into how recovery audit can add value through root cause analysis to help retailers understand why profit is leaked, how best to utilize this information, and ensure its true power is unlocked within your organization. Attendees will also learn more about the types of recommendations they should expect to see in Recovery Audit Analysis Report and come away with from the webinar with more understanding on how the root cause analysis can be used to avoid future leakage at source by driving a retailer from a reactive to preventive organisation. So before we begin, we'll cover off some housekeeping items today. Firstly, if you've got any questions or you're having trouble hearing us, please let us know in the question box. And be sure to follow our social channels, LinkedIn and Twitter, by searching PRGX Global. So to get started today, I'd like to introduce both of our presenters. Nick Williams is the UK Operations Director at PRGX. He has 15 years of recovery audit industry experience, serving a range of clients in many industries during that time. He has particular experience in end-to-end recovery audit service provision, predominantly in the retail industry, and he's passionate about delivering the best solution for our clients, ensuring that clients maximise the value that recovery audit creates. Richard Jackson is an Audit Director at PRGX. He brings with him 15 years experience in the recovery audit industry, of which the majority has been spent in the retail sector. He started as an auditor and has gone on to lead both teams in the UK and internationally, giving him the benefit of seeing how impactful root cause reporting can be, along with extensive knowledge in this area. So welcome, Nick and Richard. Thank you for joining us today. And Richard, now I'll pass over to you to get started.
Yeah, thanks Ashley for the introductions, and welcome everyone to today's webinar on the overall benefit of recovery audit. So now I'm just going to jump us back to the slides for the presentation, which will last around 20 minutes, and then we'll be back on your screens for the Q&A. So in this session, Nick and I will take you through a top-level root cause process and essentially highlight how, in our experience, you can use this information to create and maintain better processes internally, and ultimately try and reduce the amount of profit leakage through to recovery audit partners. Now, this may sound counterintuitive to us as an RA firm, but we genuinely believe in creating strong, lasting client partnerships and providing this type of analysis and information that can really benefit our clients and help drive their business forward, allows us to do that. Sorry about that little technical hitch with the slides, but we're good now. So for those on the call who are kind of new to the world of recovery audit, this is a very top level process diagram consisting of 6 stages. So to talk a little bit about the different stages, so pre-audit planning kind of clarifies the project objectives, scope and plan up front, and works between the recovery audit partner and the client. Data acquisition is ensuring that the efficient identification and transfer of data is there to support the timely audit start. At this step also, it's critical to call out that during the setup and when you're receiving data, it's important to ensure that the recovery audit partner that you're working with is tracking the kind of information that you're actually going to want to use going forward and going to have reported on. You've then got the discovery and audit plan development, which is where the teams will identify potential process gaps while promoting an efficient and effective audit plan, so the audit execution can be delivered with minimal impact to you guys and our clients. You've then got the validation and recovery stage, which is where the PRGX auditors and recoveries teams will go out and recover any claim issues due. Now, what you normally tend to find is step 1s to 5 get the main focus, because ultimately that's where the audit's conducted and that's what ends in a recovery. So it's a lot of what the day-to-day interactions with recovery audit partners will be covering. And it kind of gets you to that known benefit, cash to your bottom line. But now I'll just hand over to Nick to provide some insight into stage 6.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so what we're looking to delve deeper into throughout this session is this step 6, so around reporting and continuous improvement, and how this can be implemented and actioned to yield the true power of a recovery audit provision. What we'll be looking at today is the data held relating to all claims identified and recovered, and how this can be used to identify the cause of the claim. Understanding and reviewing this allows to look at how these errors can be stopped at source, be it a system issue or failing, a process issue or failing, or a training requirement from specific individuals within your organization. Information from this session will help provide insight and analysis, but we can't unfortunately promise that it will eradicate all errors. With our experience, we know a large proportion of claims and recoveries are actually born from human error, and these will always exist and they'll always be there. But it will help in identifying where focus, if required, is so. So, where to begin? So, with any recovery audit, the sheer volume of data and analysis that can be looked at is sometimes overwhelming, and therefore specific information that will actually add value to you going forward can easily be lost. As such, the best place to start is a top-level overview of claims successfully recovered, which is what these 2 wagon wheels show. Rich is going to go into this first phase in more detail.
Thanks, Nick. So it really does start with this top-level nucleus of information. So the slide in front of you now is retail-orientated, and in retail auditing, we generally use category or department and claim type at the top level to enable our clients to identify where the larger pound amounts are being lost. Now, category or department is kind of driven by the client, and that information, as we said on the previous slide, will be delivered up front to ensure that that's reported against going forward. Claim type is generally an agreed set of reasons leakage can occur. And as you can see from the graphical representation on the right, we've included a few common examples there. So things like underfunded retro payment on volume and rate, which is all about promotional funding and income that our clients receive from promotional funding, volume incentives and returns. So this type of reporting, although is retail focused in front of you, can be applied to any business and not just retail, because any company really with a recovery audit program, it's going to be important to understand why you have leakage to allow you to resolve those issues in the future. This analysis can then be evolved to include things like year-on-year breakdown to provide trends in leakage. Are we seeing huge spikes in a particular area that you may then need to do a deep dive into to review why that leakage is happening? So once we've got this top level analysis, Nick, who would you kind of recommend that we provide this to at this particular level?
Yes, that's a really important question. In terms of who and how this info will be used. This first phase is probably more relevant, is not relevant to individual trading teams or commercial categories. It probably doesn't give enough detail or insight to actually generate credible actions off the back of it. I'd recommend that these wagon wheels here and from the first phase are provided to specific finance departments and maybe also some senior commercial stakeholders to give them initial insight and trends that are then going to be filtered down accordingly. In terms of timings, I recommend that these are received monthly from your RA partner, but actually probably reviewed more detailed quarterly, just to make sure we don't overburden from an admin perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And that brings us quite nicely onto the next layer of information. So this reporting on kind of tier 2 will be a direct result of the top level analysis, whereby we'd be looking to select either a particular category or trading area or claim type to do a deeper dive into, so we can actually start seeing, well, who are the suppliers within that and how much of that recovery profile do they account for. So the example that is on the screen now is broken down by supplier on the left-hand side, and again, claim type on the right-hand side. It's important to keep claim type in there because it may differ from category to category or department to department from what we've seen previously at the overall level. This slide then allows us to start being a bit more detailed in the conversations that we can have with our clients. And this is where we can highlight a potential supplier that is the cause of the leakage. Now, again, as with the previous slide, this information can be evolved to include year-on-year statistics to allow trends to be seen. And hopefully what you'd see over the kind of life of a relationship with a recovery audit partner and with a supplier is those issues and recoveries slowly reducing against those suppliers as the processes internally get better, and they improve as well as there's more focus put into why leakage is being made. I think at this level, it's also worth thinking about the volume of claims. Is it one exceptional item that's actually made up the bulk of the recovery? Because if it is, it's still important to understand, well, why was that recovery made? But actually, we want to be identifying the things that are a potential process issue that are going to be a wider value to the business. So where this information is great is showing us what is the largest type of leakage by supplier or claim type, and therefore giving us a bit more enhanced insight in comparison to the top level analysis that we've just reviewed. However, we're still going to need to go a stage deeper to understand that actually within that particular supplier or claim type, why have those claims arisen? But actually, before we delve into that next level, coming back to how information is managed through the business, Nick, now we're at a deeper level. Do we think the audience changes?
Yeah, absolutely. It's much more relevant to the commercial teams and specific categories that actually have responsibility for these categories in question. Key at this level is the messaging, as Richard mentioned before, and buy-in. A hurdle sometimes we observe is that this sort of thing can be seen as performance management, and some commercial teams can take these errors as a personal reflection on their ability. So it's key to cover this off as early as possible, and making sure that they're aware that this is actually just a continuous improvement exercise to make sure that there's nothing really sort of straightforward or just a very straightforward training requirement that could minimize these claims being leaked. I think all categories would like the money in as early as possible into their bottom line. So it's just key that we get the messaging correct as early as possible on that.
And then that's what brings us really down to the kind of level 3 of this kind of 3-stage process that we're talking through at the moment, which is the claim level detail. Unfortunately, this stage is unavoidable, and it is where we're going to have to get into the specifics of the claim detail to uncover exactly what the root cause for each individual claim has been. These reviews really are trying to highlight common issues being highlighted in a particular claim type, and whether as well these are across supplier or specific to one vendor. So this is the opportunity that we have to really highlight systemic process issues that may be occurring, and actually those could be causing leakage points in the wider category or the wider business, and that's where we potentially then branch off and investigate those areas alongside this. So once you kind of identify something, it kind of grows out like a tree. You branch off into the different areas, and it really does have a wider impact across the business. So this 3-stage process that we've really ran through fairly top level and fairly quickly, because it is difficult to go into all the different levels of detail, but really we wanted to give you guys on the call today an example of what we would recommend as a great place to start for getting into root cause and making sure that you are analysing where leakage comes from. Post that, it's really a cyclical process. So once we've kind of gone through the top level, the category tier and the claim level, it's then all about really starting back to the start, refreshing that reporting, looking back at the top level, and deciding a new area of focus. Because it's all about continuous improvement and continuously trying to improve the processes and plug as many leakage gaps as we can do throughout the process that we're conducting the audit work. Due to the level of detail here that you need to get into with the individual claim reviews, we suggest probably quarterly working sessions to go through these with the relevant stakeholders. So as Nick said previously, not to point fingers and blame, it's just to highlight how can we improve going forward, because really that is the goal of this. It's a continuous improvement exercise. And I know in my experience of building relationships with trading teams and categories and going through this type of information, that actually you do get really solid and good feedback from those guys, and actually we tend to find that the majority of people actually like the information that we're giving, because yes, they want to improve at the same time. And I don't know if you agree, Nick, but I definitely feel these sessions are better done face-to-face or virtually face-to-face as we would have at the moment.
Yeah, in current conditions, that they'd probably be more virtual face-to-face, but yeah, definitely one-to-one or face-to-face way of going through this is better, especially when you're getting to this detailed, granular claim level. I think it personalizes your recovery audit program. So effectively, we're not sort of just very much removed from the process. We're actually, you bring a face to the name, but also understanding by looking at our claim packs and going into this level of detail, a really good understanding of what we do, and how we're approaching supply base with claims. And as to echo Rich's point, it tends to support overall relationships and just good, strong relationships with commercial teams to help support and maximize sort of the recoveries in future. So in terms of this slide here is really how we use the data, which we've gone through in those three phases, how you'd actually in practice bring those in and plan how that data is disseminated to ensure maximum return. I think I'm not going to go into all of these in too much detail. A lot of it's been hashed beforehand. However, the first one's the most important. So garnering interest, ensuring that the right people get access to the right data. This is really, really important right from the off to maximize your return and the power of these findings. You need to make sure the right people are involved and they're bought into it and understand how important it is from a continuous improvements perspective to use this data. From that point, and then how the data is cut, it's fully tailorable. So those wagon wheels can be completely cut and diced in different ways, in terms of it doesn't have to just be category and claim type. You can look into a single claim type and understand how suppliers are cut that way. It can be done however we work with our suppliers to see which way is going to work best for them. Following that is the next 4 bullet points. So these can then take the form of quarterly reviews with relevant stakeholders to maybe see if there's an endemic system problem that needs to be resolved, or just a process problem that can be quite quickly put into place to reduce some of this leakage. Maybe workshops with selected audiences, especially around commercial teams. Is there a specific category that may be making a similar error? Is there something that we can provide a workshop on? Or training needs, again, if this is more an individual or again a team that maybe requires some more training because they're actually not adhering to the processes that our suppliers already have in place. Or finally, is there an identification of a systemic process issue? So is there something that we can support in terms of you can amend your systems this way and this would reduce X amount of leakage coming through? So it's fully tailorable really how we use it. But I think the most important thing is once you have the data is making sure the relevant people have access to that data and know what to do with it going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point from Nick there, because I think when we've seen success across the industry and we've seen clients of ours using root cause to its maximum benefit, it's had the necessary stakeholders bought into the process up front and actually really taking a keen interest in those top level reports. But then what are the actions come off the reviews. So I do think that is a really good point, and one that is good to highlight. So we've kind of been through there a top level overview of root cause, and now I just want to run through a quick case study highlighting the positive impact root cause analysis can have. For confidentiality reasons, there's not too much detail in here, but it's more of a flavour of what position the particular client was in, and then what process got us to the solution and the result at the end of it. So just to cover the scenario, so the client has a mature root cause process embedded in the business, the audit's accelerated, and we have a monthly working session set up to share information on claims and why we're finding them. So typically that's coming under the kind of claim level review that we've just gone through, but to get to this point, we've had to go through kind of the top level and category and garner the buy-in from the relevant stakeholders to put us in this position where we can really produce these success stories. So the identification throughout our audit, we highlighted a claim concept which was occurring regularly and at high values. It was in relation to how promotional income was being billed. So the details section, as part of the working sessions, as we'd seen that this issue kept arising and it was coming up on the reports, we reviewed the specific claim detail and found a systemic issue in how the funding was actually being raised, and it was actually contained within the documentation being used. So PRGX advised the client on how to fix the issue and actually helped improve the documentation before providing training to the billing team to ensure that not only was it working then, but it was also going to be used correctly going forward. Now, what did this result in? Well, that particular error was eradicated, in turn leading to a 60% reduction in total promotional claims being identified the following year. Now, that's a huge hit to the recovery numbers that we were able to deliver. However, in doing so, we'd already maximized the working capital benefit and the increased profit to our client up front. So a really great story for them, and a great use of root cause analysis and what it can identify. Now, one of the drivers and keys to that being so successful was due to the highly accelerated nature of the audit, because what it meant is we could identify the issue, we could resolve it quickly, and actually then the benefit was clearly visible in the following period.
So yeah, as Richard mentioned there, one of the key overarching factors that does impact how valuable and pertinent this root cause data is its age. The most powerful root cause data is the most recent. So due to numerous measures, I think in terms of when you're looking at root cause analysis, looking 2-3 years behind transaction is probably not the most useful. I think systems may have changed, processes may have changed, and probably more often personnel have changed. So you can be providing feedback that actually there's no one really to action that feedback. So the more recent and more up to date this root cause feedback is, definitely the more powerful, because or the people tend to be in situation, the processes haven't changed as much. So these are definite things that are happening now that we're looking to fix. So this sits well and marries up well with one of our key strategies, which is initially moving our service provision to the left, at closer transactions. So moving from traditional post-payment, traditional recovery audit, which can be anywhere between sort of 60 days to 2 years behind transaction, up to as close to transaction as possible, and actually in time, moving that to actually before the transaction and stopping these errors happening in the first place. There's a number of advantages to this, as listed on this slide, in terms of just error prevention, working capital gains, that you get the money up front, reduce supplier abrasion. So again, this historic looking becomes a thing of the past. But I think the main thing to call out there is that this providing timely and therefore the most valuable root cause analysis is a key benefit that aligns to our moving to the left. And we see ourselves as the leaders of this move to the left. And I think as well, so utilizing this root cause analysis will only get more and more powerful as we as an industry move closer to the transaction.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think that's a really good point on acceleration and kind of the strategy behind PRGX at the moment. And just to summarize some key takeaways from the presentation that we've ran through, root cause is really a continuous process improvement platform, and root cause information, if used in the correct way, is a really powerful tool which you can all use to constantly evolve your processes, systems, personnel, to ensure that leakage is kept to a minimum. Now, speaking of leakage, I think as we've mentioned a few times on the call, we would expect a reduction in leakage if your root cause analysis is being used in the right way, because it'll inevitably lead to less leakage going through to recovery audits. And this is not a bad thing. This is actually a really good thing for clients and for you guys, because it means that we know that you're maximizing the potential from the information that we're providing. It's stopping leakage up at source, meaning that you're benefiting upfront, and actually on the back of that, in the retail environment, your customers are therefore benefiting. And for PRGX, it doesn't mean it's the end of the road. As Nick laid out previously, our strategic vision is not only to highlight areas of leakage, but also understand how we can play a role in preventing them and any future points that may arise. Because I think as much as we've worked in the industry for a long time, and we do our best from a root cause analysis and try to prevent leakage, and there's always going to be an element that businesses have humans involved with them, and therefore potential issues can arise. So moving that into a preventative platform, we feel is kind of the way that the industry is going to go. And actually, it's what our clients want. They want to get that billing right first time. To do this, you need an RA partner that's transparent and trusted, and that's what we at PRGX try to do. As I said, that the recoveries reduced doesn't necessarily mean the end of the relationship for us. And we are and will continue to push forward with new innovative ways to service our clients and help them succeed. So I hope everyone has enjoyed the webinar today. I'll now hand back to Ashley to see if there's been any questions raised as we've been running through.
Thanks, Richard. So yes, we have had a few questions come through. The first is, where do you see the largest areas of leakage across retail clients, or is it different for different clients?
Okay, yeah, I can take that one. So the short answer is it is different per client. It will all depend on how their mechanisms are set up. So how do they receive funding from suppliers? How do they tend to promote their products? Do they promote their products? But if I was to take it back and say, look, across all the retailers that PRGX currently audit, promotional income's always the biggest area of leakage that we see, whether that's promotional income from retail sales or promotional income from store space. It always tends to be the highest percentage that we see across the market.
Great, thank you. So the second question, how would I go about implementing root cause analysis?
Yeah, I can take that one. It's as outlined really in part of the presentation. I think the key for me is engaging with your RA provider to make sure the data's in hand and make sure all of the claim types have necessary data behind them. So each claim should have its own some form of root cause code against it, so you understand exactly how your claims are happening. But then the key point and the most important thing to start with is making sure that you get buy-in, preferably probably from top down, to make sure that we're all aware in terms of how this data is going to be used going forward, rather than just implementing it. I think I would recommend that it's definitely filtered down with key messaging around why it's being done and how we're looking to continuously improve. That's how I'd recommend it's implemented.
Yeah, and I think the only thing to add to that is probably just also the setup of the audit. I know we've mentioned it quite a few times as we've been going through, but the closer to transaction you are, the more pertinent the root cause information that we can provide is.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, would this not work outside of retail?
No, that is absolutely not the case. This webinar has been focused primarily on retail, but really, as I mentioned in one of the previous slides, this type of reporting is pertinent to any company and any business who operates with a recovery audit partner. The reporting will be slightly different in that the categories and departments may need to be classified differently, but ultimately, if that recovery audit partner is recovering money on your behalf, it's important for you to understand why that money is leaking through, and actually getting this type of root cause analysis will assist you in doing that and allow you to plug those gaps going forward.
Yeah, and outside of retail, obviously the claim concepts may be less, so there may be obviously less promotional and less volume incentive. But even the most straightforward of errors that happen from an AP perspective, they should have a root cause analysis. They should have a reason of why that claim has come to be it a system issue, be it a personnel issue, and that therefore this root cause analysis is definitely valuable to clients outside of the retail world.
Great, thank you. So the last question today, it doesn't sound like it's worth your while to provide this information to clients.
Yes, I mean, I think as we've mentioned a couple of times throughout this, it does seem counterintuitive, but it goes back to the part of we are partners, we're recovery audit partners to our clients. Part of our service should be to provide this information and make sure that if there's any straightforward things that can be fixed, that we should be providing those recommendations. I think in terms of our clients, our long-standing clients, they understand that we do form part of that. So when it comes to talking to them around reducing recoveries, we're talking to them, and they know, because of the work that we've done, that it's not a bad thing. They're getting a lot of all the errors that they used to get maybe a year, 2 years behind transaction. They're getting a lot earlier in the process, but also that we track the information as well. So if we provide a recommendation, and as per the case study that Richard went through, we can identify exactly what was saved going forward. So again, it's both parties working together, so understand what's going on. So it may sound counterintuitive, but actually from a longevity of partnership, it does really work well.
Great, thank you. So yeah, big thank you again to Nick and Richard for presenting today and giving our audience some insights into the overlooked benefits of recovery audit. And we thank you all for joining us and tuning in for today's webinar. The recording will be added to the PRGX website along with our other on-demand webinars. I would also encourage you to rate this video. So there should be a box below the webinar itself, and you can provide any feedback there too. And lastly, if you want to know more about the solution or you want to speak with a PRGX expert, please visit our website, prgx.com. So we thank you all again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.